like your alcohol, you don't think anything about taking mouthwash, right? I mean, even though it has alcohol in it, and because again it's medicinal. Same thing with these. Again, a lot of these tinctures and the homeopathics. My homeopathic, the OMG Max, right? It uses alcohol as a delivery agent. So we use alcohol medicinally as a delivery agent, right? Now, you know, the alcohol doesn't care what it's transporting. So if you mix alcohol with good things, right, then you get healthy benefits. If you mix alcohol with bad things, then you get other consequences. So if you mix alcohol, for instance, with smoking, then your cancer rate goes way up, right? Because you're really, you know, I mean, you're getting IV carcinogens, right? If you mix the alcohol with cigarettes, right? So, you know, so when you hear about the association of alcohol with cancer, well, that's the difference. Is if you mix alcohol with things that have carcinogens in them, then that really ratchets up the potency of the cancer-causing agent, right? The alcohol, because it makes it absorb better, right? So, so you switch to the electronic. They have those electronic cigarettes out now that they have the nicotine, which is the psychoactive chemical that's in cigarette. They have the nicotine in them, but they don't have all those other thousands of things in them, you know, that cause cancer, right? So, and you handle them just like a cigarette, and they have smoke that comes out of them, but the smoke is a vapor, it's water, right? So, so that's a very good switch to make, right, for smokers. Now, your other salads, right? Now, when people think about dieting, right, or losing weight, many people think about eating salads. You know, it's funny to me, you know, when I go to places, you know, where I get a salad and I watch, particularly women, make a salad. Because they go for all the high carb, you know, the macaroni salad, right, and they're, you know, pouring on the tuna salad with all the mayonnaise and so forth. For me, a salad is vegetables, right? So, you know, the leafy greens, right, and, you know, cabbage and tomatoes and other plant things. So when you go to the salad bar, you know, stay away from those things, you know, that are real high sugar. That Jello mold stuff, right? That's not salad. Right? So, I mean, get real salad if you're going to do a salad. And then, you know, you can kill everything by loading it up with these high sugar dressings, right? And particularly the ones that say low fat. Anytime something says low fat or no fat, that's a code word for high sugar, right? And high sugar, even if it says diet, right? If it says diet, then that means it's sweetened with one of these artificial sweeteners, aspartame or saccharin or whatever, that has a higher sweet taste to it, and it's going to make you produce more insulin, right? Stay away from those also. But get these salad dressings, again, that don't have sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and those type of things in them, right? I got this at Natural Groceries. Now, the other thing to look for, even at the health food store, and again, you got to be careful in health food stores because everything there is not healthy. And one of the things that the health food stores do with these salad dressings is they use canola oil, which is not the best oil for you. You want ones that have either olive oil or sunflower oil is another good one, but the canola oil is, again, that's another one of those particularly GMO products, you know, they're not as good for you. Okay.
As far as lettuce goes, you'd want to eat like a darker lettuce, like romaine lettuce instead of iceberg lettuce?
Yeah, the iceberg. Again, very good test for you, and if you've got kids, this is a good experiment for you to do with them, is produce, to set it out and see which spoils, you know, turns brown or grows fungus easier. That'd be a great science project, you know, for if any of you that have kids. See what turns brown quickest, right, and what grows most. So if you take like an extreme with the purple cabbage, right, set that out on your counter, and then you set that iceberg lettuce out there, right. Well, that iceberg lettuce is going to be wilty and brown right within the day, most likely. Whereas that purple cabbage, because it has all those antifungals in it, right, I mean, it'll stay out there and not go brown for a week or so, maybe longer. So, same thing with the sweet potato, right? It lasts because that's a root vegetable that has all those antifungals in it, right? Because the root vegetables, I mean, they're in the ground where all the fungus is, and so they got to, make some strong antifungals. Same thing with beets, right? Okay. Questions?
We're gonna go off on the side, and then for 21 days, we're gonna follow the BALI Eating plan.
No. You're going to follow the BALI for the rest of your life. Right? So for 3 days, you're going to stop your injections. For 3 days, you'll continue the same 500 calories that you're on now. Right? And then you'll transition to the BALI.
Okay.
And that's for life.
And how soon can we go back on the HCG to lose more weight after that?
You can do the next class.
So
I mean, yeah.
you don't have to wait?
No, we haven't found that. We haven't found that that's a requirement.
So after the 40 days is over, you can just pick back up and keep going?
Yep. You were mentioning alcohol, I mean, so that's a good point to mention also. So alcohol, so beer is out, right? The hard liquors are okay. The sweetie drinks, right? The margaritas, right? Those type of things, right? You stay away from. But again, on a regular medicinal purpose, right? To get your HDL up, to lower your cholesterol, to improve the blood flow in your arteries and improve brain function and so forth. Right? You know, I recommend 4 ounces of that pomegranate wine a night, or the cranberry. Right? So that's again just label that medicinal. Right? The alcohol is just a delivery agent.
What else do you eat for dessert? I mean, I love to eat cake and cookies and stuff like that. What do you eat as far as other than just yogurt and?
The other thing that I will have that's really delicious is I will take this coconut milk, and then I'll get a coffee, and then I'll get the organic chocolate, right? And I'll make a drink with that. And you can sweeten it with stevia also. I mean, and that's one of the best desserts ever. Another really good dessert that just tastes good and you can't believe it's good for you, and it sounds kind of weird, but avocado. So you take a really ripe avocado and put it into the bowl, and then you just mix berries into it, right? Either strawberries or blueberries or whatever, and then you top it with cinnamon. I mean, heaven. The baked apples, right? I think that may be on y'all's in your menu books, but the baked apples and then put cinnamon on there is really good also. The sweet potatoes, right? Making that for a dessert, right? So that would serve as a dessert and a vegetable serving. So bake the sweet potatoes, put the and you can use real butter. Right? Real butter is okay. Just stay away from the margarine, right, and those other fake butters and so forth. But the baked potato again with the cinnamon, right? Again, you can put the butter on there. That's another really good dessert. But you want to start kind of training your palate, right, to not go for such sweet stuff, right? Because again, every time your tongue tastes that sweet, I mean, it's thinking sugar and it produces insulin. That makes you hold on to fat, right? Get the xylitol, right, just to keep it home. Right? That will be if you do use sugar, that's the one that you're going to use. Right?
Dr. Mitchell, what about coconut flour?
Coconut flour, yes, yeah. Coconut flour, so if you want to bake things, right, or if the wife wants to bake things, have her use the coconut flour. Again, the coconut milk for a thickener, xylitol for a sweetener. The more you use these spices also, so like vanilla and nutmeg and cinnamon, right, that requires you to use less sugar. And then those are also potent antifungals, at least the nutmeg and the cinnamon are, and the vanilla not so much, but vanilla has a good taste to it, right? So to put these spices in, right, it kind of lessens the desire for more sugar. Right?
I have found if you will Google recipes for coconut flour, there are some wonderful. I've made some of these.
Yeah.
And they're like pancakes, cookies, cakes. So if you really want something like that, and if you use everything, all the ingredients, you might have to change some of the recipe a little bit because they use some sweeteners that we're not supposed to use on BALI. But you
and so, I mean, start doing these things, and you guys should start to become ambassadors for this type of lifestyle, right? Particularly you guys that are professionals, right? And you're interacting with people every day. But in your church life and in your social life, I mean, start, when they have the potluck, you bring the healthy stuff, right? And start educating people as to why, you're eating like this, and, be a messenger. And we have, again, this critical mass, right, no pun intended, that we're at here in the United States, with obesity and all this disease and so forth. And we're not going to get out of this, giving people drugs. It's just not going to happen. It makes the drug companies a lot richer, but it only makes people sicker. Right? The more drugs we take, the sicker we get. Right? We kill 200,000 people a year here in the United States with prescription drugs used correctly. Right? That's not counting any mistakes. Just people taking prescription drugs the way they're supposed to be taken. We kill 200,000 people a year. I mean, the reason that Steve and I have to go to school to learn to prescribe these things is that they're poisons, right? They inhibit biochemical reactions. They all inhibit biochemical reactions. That's the definition of a poison. Anything that inhibits a biochemical reaction, right, in any way. So, for a short period of time, an antibiotic or an antiviral or something, to keep you out of pain for 7, 10 days, whatever. But people should not be on prescription poisons for life, right? That's what gives us the problems. And my quote is, you're never going to medicate your way out of diseases that you behave yourself into. And most of the diseases or what we call diseases, or really consequences, we're dealing with these days are problems that people behave themselves into by what we eat and drink and that type of thing. Those are reversible, right? I mean, it's like drunk driving. There's no cure for that. You just got to quit drinking, right, and driving. Right? So the same thing with diabetes or high blood pressure or high cholesterol or any of these other things. You've got to change what you do in order to get your body cleaned out and non-toxic again. Right? And even with cancer, right? Cancer also is a consequence. Right? And I had cancer, right? Prostate cancer, advanced prostate cancer. But I turned it around just with natural things. Right? Didn't have any surgery, no radiation, no chemo, or anything like that. You change the environment inside your body, then those cells, they sense that change and they change back. The reason they change into cancer cells is because they're dealing with a toxic environment. They can't breathe, right? So they change to a type of cell that doesn't use oxygen anymore, right? It becomes more like a fungus. And they only use the sugar, right? And it takes 15, 20 years for that transition to happen, right? And we can see it, as we look at people with cancer, there's this transition that happens, right? And on the outside of the skin, you can see it in these moles, right? So you have this mole that's, there, and then it starts to change, one day. And maybe starts to bleed a little bit, right? It gets darker, the borders get irregular, and you end up with a melanoma, right? But again, that's a transition. Those same cells will transition back. They will go back the other way and turn normal again if you clean out the environment. Now, there may be some other things that you have to do in order to kill some cells that don't change back, but cancer also is a consequence, right? It's not a disease. And these pink ribbons and races and all this other crap, that people are making money off of, right? And commercializing cancer hasn't helped. It's not going to help. Right?
To be back up, would you talk a little bit about the difference between xylitol and stevia as far as us using them?
So again, one of the key things as far as keeping your weight down is keeping down the level of these inflammatory factors from the immune system. So the lower your level of critters, right, then the more turned off your immune system is, right? If you get lots of critters, your immune system is going to try to protect you, so it's going to come out and start a war. That war is called inflammation. And part of the inflammatory process is production of these growth factors. Growth factors make you grow, right? So you want to not unnecessarily provoke your immune system, right? You want to save it for when you actually get an infection. Most of the food that we eat here in the United States, it promotes an overgrowth, which is different from an infection. An infection is when you get some kind of bug from the outside that comes into you and infects you, like the Ebola virus or the HIV virus or some of these other fungal infections. Those are infections. Strep throat is not an infection. That's an overgrowth, right? Because that strep is always there. Acne is not an infection. That's an overgrowth. Your main bug that overgrows and stimulates your immune system is yeast, right? And yeast is always there. It's always in our colon, and normally it's beneficial, right? It helps us absorb some vitamins and minerals and so forth. But if it overgrows, then it becomes malignant, and it makes your immune system start producing these inflammatory factors. Yeast loves sugar, right? And so they will, if here's sugar, they will come, they grab it, and they eat it, and that's how they grow. When yeast sees xylitol, they want to eat it, but they can't digest xylitol. So xylitol acts like a decoy, right? And this is why the xylitol mint and the xylitol gum is such a good treat to give your kids. It prevents cavities, because again, the bacteria and the yeast, they will, attach on to the xylitol, thinking that it's something that they can eat, right, and survive on, but they can't, right? And then your body can just wash it away. So that's the benefit of the xylitol. The stevia doesn't do that, right? Now, stevia, it's a sweetener, but it doesn't have an effect on bringing down your critter level. So that's the benefit of stevia over xylitol over stevia. So xylitol, that's actually a sugar that your body normally produces, right? So these, like when you have snot, right? Those are sugars that the body is producing in order to give the bacteria and virus something else to cling on to, and then it just washes out of your body, right? So the xylitol, using the xylitol, that's actually just complementing your normal immune function as far as keeping down your critter level, right? So they attach to that xylitol, and they can't survive on it.
But does insulin, you said something in another class about just the taste of sweet?
Yes. Now xylitol is not as sweet. It's not as intensely sweet as sugar, so it has a lower intensity sweet also than sugar or stevia. Yeah. So it's not going to make you produce as much insulin.
Okay.
Yeah. Now do be careful with the xylitol though, because too much can have a laxative effect, right? And it varies, with the people, and you get more used to it as you use it. But which that can be good for some people if you have problems with constipation. So. Other questions? Okay, so this is your last week, right? And you've all done so very well. But again, transitioning, we've, throughout your life, you've seen people, lose 50 pounds or whatever, but keeping it off, right? That's the challenge for most these diet plans, or even, with the gastric bypass or surgery or whatever, because they don't teach them they don't teach them anything about this, what I'm teaching you, about all the insulin and the growth factors and estrogen and those type of things. So they go back to, even if they're eating small amounts of the bad food, it's still going to make you produce insulin, and these people, they lose 100 pounds on the surgery, but then they slowly gain it back because they're eating incorrectly, right, and not exercising. So you're not going to do that because you have gotten educated as to the things, that make you fat, right? So that's kind of the difference in this program. So, so going forward, making these choices, right? Again, you'll be safe out there, again, knowing what to eat. Even if you go out to eat, and there are some things at the bottom of that sheet that I gave you that gives you some tips on eating out also.
So I'll just say, yesterday was the last day of school, and after the kids left, we had a catered lunch.
Uh-huh.
And I tried my best to find out what it was going to be, because I thought, I don't know if I can eat anything or not. And it was this big secret, so I didn't find out till right when it was time to go. And it was lasagna, garlic bread, salad, and chocolate chip cookies.
Right.
And so somebody said to me, I'm going to see what she's going to eat. So I thought, okay, there's only one thing I can have here, some salad.
Yeah.
With no dressing.
Yeah.
So I just filled my plate with lettuce, and just put it up there.
I want to see what she's gonna do.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's see what she's gonna do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other landmine is letting other people prepare your food, right? Because they're just not going to make the choices, the healthy choices, right? Because the lasagna and the garlic bread and all that crap is cheap, very cheap, right? So if somebody else is providing the food, they're going to give you cheap crap, right?
Well, I have 2 parties to go to tonight and tomorrow, and they're gonna cook brisket.
So
So I'm just-
those functions, right, and particularly as the holidays approaching that time, you got things, functions to go to, eat before. Eat before you go, right? So that if you do have something, right, you'll just have a little taste of this, and you're not piling your plate, you're not arriving famished, and piling up your plate. Eat from the BALI eating plan before you go, right?
I don't want to.
Huh?
I said we don't want to.
Well, again, I mean, if you do that, and then you go to the function, and there's something that's really appealing, right? I mean, have a taste of it, right? And you're satisfied. Yeah.
Oh, I know what I was gonna ask. I was reading, I don't remember where I read it, because I've been reading all kinds of things, trying to educate myself too, but it says something about a steak night, if you gain weight, what,
Yeah, so that's a little trick that he had, and you read more about that in the book, but it tells you, if you get where you're putting on a few pounds, right, to do the steak night, right, and to reverse that. And that works well, but, I mean, so, keep that in your bag of tricks, right? But you shouldn't have to do that if you follow this protocol. But, things come up, there's weddings, and there's parties and birthdays and, vacations and that type of thing. And so, you get back from, your week cruise, to wherever, and, that big old buffet that they have on the cruise ships, and unlimited eating, right, and you pack on a few pounds, then, that's a remedy to kind of get it off kind of quickly. Yeah. All right, well, next week is our last week, and we'll probably talk just a little more about exercise, that last session, right? And I may have someone actually come in and talk to us about personal training, but that will be it. All right.
Great.